Good morning. My name is Charles Marshall. I go by Bill. This is your introduction to CIT253. It's a 3-credit hour course. It's about data-driven web pages. We're going to use Blackboard as the official site, but we will have some supplemental information on website https at www.cwmclass.com. Okay, so what are we going to cover in this class? Well, at the end of the class, the student should be able to install and configure a web server. We're going to use Apache as the industry standard. You're going to install it on a Windows 10 machine, or if somebody has a Raspberry Pi or a Linux box or a Mac OS, you can do it on any. The write-up's based on using a Windows 10. I did that write-up on a Mac OS, so I'm not prejudiced to Windows 10. You're going to be able to analyze and explain the uses of databases in commerce. Analyze and explain the implications of transaction processing. Design and develop client-side scripting applications. Design and develop server-side scripting applications. And I guess one of the points is to be sure that you fully understand the implications of using client-side and the implications of using server-side and the power of each. Design a functional e-commerce supporting database. Write scripting and query language codes to input-output data from the database. Evaluate and analyze customer behavior data from a website. Design and develop integrated web database applications such as inventory, billing, and shipping. All right, so how are we going to do that? In week 1, our goal is to understand Apache web servers on the server side. In week 2, we're going to talk about JavaScript on the client side. On week 3, we're going to install and use PHP on the server side. And week 4, because we're getting to the place where we need to start having projects designed and databases for those projects designed, we're going to talk about e-commerce database structures. In 5, we're going to talk about MySQL for server-side databases. And week 6, we're going to start integrating technology. We've talked about all these different levels of the stack. We're going to start integrating the technologies in the stack, and we're going to use PHP to dynamically generate a page on a load, which is the old kind of web-based, database-driven website. Then we're going to use PHP to dynamically generate another page on a load, still old-style web-based database access. They're going to talk about some more ways to pass data back and forth between the server and the client. We got break week. I'm always in favor of break week. Week 10, we're going to talk about transactions, sessions, and JSON. Week 11, we're talking about e-commerce and security during transmission, security of data on the server, and how to track customer behavior. 13 is security on credit card sales. Week 14, we're going to talk about class website project progress, have a project progress check. And, by the end of week 13, hopefully you will have all the tools in your tool bag to complete your database. There's a lot of coding and a lot of stuff to put together, so the last 2 weeks, 14 and 15 at least, we're going to be just checking in on how you're doing and having GoToMeeting webinars and so forth, one-on-one, so that if you have any problems, you've got plenty of help, we hope, to bring your project in. Week 16, we're going to have the class website project presentation. Week 17 is the final exam. Alright, so that sounds complicated. And as with most things in life, if you understand it, it's simple, and the things you don't understand are complicated. My goal in this class is to break each topic down into basic terms and concepts, and do it by building up. To use those terms and concepts to build on your understanding of the more complex terms and concepts. In the class is cumulative. It's like a Lego project or a jigsaw puzzle. If you don't get the first 1 and 2 parts put together, you'll never have much luck with putting in block 3 and 4. So, if a term or a concept is not clear, ask me a question. That's what they pay me to do, is come in and try to help you all, not to be some sort of ogre that you don't ever want to talk to. But if you don't understand something in week 1, and you just go, oh, well, I'll worry about that later. Week 3, 4, and up is going to be a real bother. Okay, because this is an online course, you do not need to fear slowing the class down. Everybody's going to work at their own speed. Once you grasp the terms or concept, do the assignment and move on. If you don't grasp it, again, call me and let's talk about it. But if you do not understand what I mean, I've done a poor job. It's not an implication on you, it's that I haven't figured out how to explain it clearly. Help me. Ask me a question. That's what office hours are for. There's 50 different ways to present each of these concepts. And the other thing is, there's no one right answer to any of these things. Databases and websites and so forth are still very much an art form. And our goal is not to make you a cascading style sheet expert or Linux shell script expert or any of these different layers. You can spend a career probably on 1 or 2 of the layers in this class that we're going to talk. What we're trying to do is give you an overview of how it all hooks together, so that as you leave school and start either trying to build your own, or more likely working on a subset, a part of a total project, you'll know it's probably better to hire somebody on the outside to do that focuses on that. Or, well, that's easy, I can do that myself. If you don't have an understanding of the complete technology stack, websites tend to become mumbo-jumbo black boxes, only the geeks can do it, when in fact, it's much like the story I heard about the Army radio specialist. And guy was in the Army, and he was known as a sergeant that just was an amazing radio technician and so forth. And so a buck private got sent to work with him in the supply room, and when everybody else was away, the buck private said to the sergeant, "So what's your secret?" The sergeant says, "Don't tell them where you put the batteries." And it's not quite that simplistic in web pages, but to a large extent, once you understand what's going on, it's really not that complicated. But if you don't understand the layers and the concepts and what you're trying to achieve, it's very easy to get snowed by somebody who wants to snow you. Okay, so what would failure look like? How would we know if you were in fact having problems in the class? Well, if you roll the eyes and give up, and because you believe that, oh, these are too complicated, or if you say, well, I cannot do fill in the blank. I can't do PHP or whatever. We'll both fail. But if you ask me a question, we got office hours for that, and then we'll both succeed. Alright, so your final project will not be done in a week or 2. I say again, will not be done in a week or 2. In the real world, you'll need to convince others that your data solutions can be trusted. But before that, you've got to figure out what is the goal of the project, a project statement. And then you need to have business rules so that you and your users can decide on what success looks like, then you're going to need, well, like I say, the problem your website's designed to solve. Why does this problem need a solution? Be careful that you don't have a solution in search of a problem, but in our class we're going to try to find a problem that needs a solution, and then you've got to have to figure out how you'll organize your data to solve the problem, how you exploit the power of each level of the technology stack that we're going to discuss for your solution, how you will assure the data security of your solution. The things to consider is the scope too large for class project? You know, if somebody comes in and says they want to do an Amazon type site with all the bells and whistles, I'm going to try to discourage you, because that's more than you can realistically do in this course. If somebody comes in with something that's too trivial, I'm going to just try to discourage that, because its triviality will make it impossible to get a good grade. But in both cases, as in the real world, it's going to be your call. Your grade is going to depend on how you pick your project and how you implement your project. And if you have something that really you think is something you want to do, even if it's bigger than I think you can accomplish, if you can pull it off, you'll be graded accordingly. And truthfully, if you've been very aggressive on what you're trying to do, and as you go into the project realize that many big projects can't be done in a big bang, and you're judicial in how you figure out phase one, and you accomplish phase one in a good order, you'll get a good grade. If you pick a really aggressive project and don't get anything accomplished, your grade will reflect that also. And likewise, if you pick a very simple project but do it very elegantly, your grade will reflect. But if you pick a simple project and do it in a simple, well, simple's good, complex is hard, but if you do it in a very trivial way, your grade will reflect that. But in each case, it's your call. You are, as in the real world, going to live and die based on, or your grade in this class at least, is going to live and die based on the decisions you make. Which I guess is also another point. No matter what grade you make in this class, nobody's going to die. So keep the grade in perspective. We're all here to try to increase your understanding and your skill set, and don't just chase a grade and not learn the material and not understand the material. Okay, does the solution cost more than the problem is currently costing? In the real world, this is really important. People can come up with really elegant ways to do things, but if the low-tech, simple way has all the value, if you don't get any value add, let me say it this way, if you don't get any value add from a complex solution, you're never going to pay for a complex solution. All right. All of this is to say, start picking your problem now. And if I can make that more clearly, you need to start picking the problem to solve now. Okay. How is CIT253 going to work? I'm going to prepare video segments such as this on class topics. I'm going to have assignments on those topics. I will grade the assignments as they are due. Earlier in my teaching career, I told people, well, I'll work ahead and I'll grade them as you send them in. What I found out was it was nearly impossible for me to be consistent in grading. So I'm going to have assignments due by Monday evening at 11:59 p.m. I'm going to grade on Monday all the topics, all the assignments that have been submitted by then, and then Tuesday when I get up, I'm going to grade the others, so that I will do all the grading in that 2-day period each week, and I think that's going to improve my grading consistency. So you need to turn in the week 3 assignments by week 3's date, and you can check Blackboard to find out what that date is to have it count towards your final score. Now, the truth is, because this is a distance learning, if it gets to be Wednesday or something and you are able to turn it in, I will still grade your assignment. I will not give it full grades, but above all else, my goal is to make sure that you understand the material. And because it's cumulative, I don't want you to have, for some reason, not been able to do week 2 and think, well, I didn't get week 2 done on time, so I'm not going to worry about it. That's the road to failure. And I want to do all possible to have you get each week assignment as you get to it, so that you can have a successful conclusion to the class. Some assignments are practical demonstrations, and since we're using your Windows 10 machine as your server, there's really no good way for you to submit your Windows 10 machine to me each week. So my intention is that each week I'm going to ask each student to tell me when we can schedule a 15-minute go-to-meeting session, and I'll use that 15 minutes to see how the students accomplish that week's practical assignments. Now, I'm fairly flexible, and each week in Blackboard I will post what my office hours are, but I'm not telling you that I'll get up at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning to do this. But if you want to schedule, and we're going to schedule first come first serve, but each week my intention is that we have a practical exercise. My intention is to on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday try to schedule a 15-minute period with each of you so that I can understand how you're getting along. Now, if you need more extended web assistance, that's part of what I'm supposed to be doing. And we can do it before your 15-minute session or after your 15-minute session. So if it gets to be Thursday and you see that for the assignment that's due on Monday at 11:59, you really need some help, schedule a web conference. We will set up a GoToMeeting or use Blackboard's conference. My preference is GoToMeeting, but we will figure out a way to do it so that I can see your screen and that and you can see my screen, and that we'll get you the help that you need. But the 15-minute session, I want to focus on understanding what progress you've made for that week's assignment, and really try to not do much other work with you, just so that we can get those 15-minute sessions out pretty quickly. All right. In all cases, check Blackboard for the class assignments and when to turn in your work. In conclusion, we're talking about CIT253, which is a 3-credit-hour course, data-driven web pages. My name is Charles W. Bill Marshall. My email is cmarshall0050@kctcs.edu, and I give you my cell phone, 606-375-2076. But I ask you to only use that during business hours or during office hours, and you can check Blackboard to find out what that week's office hours are. Thank you.